Hi there, this is Ranjit, and in this video I'm going to talk about Windows Phone and some of the issues that I still think are prevalent with the Windows Phone. And if you've been following me, I test a lot of smartphones, and I played with Windows Phone and have used them last year also. For example, I purchased the Lumia 620 and the 520 last year, and I used them for a while, but I gave up. And recently also I had the Lumia 1520, which is a high-end Windows phone by Nokia, and also this is the Lumia 525, and I decided to use these phones for at least a week. But I noticed that after almost about 2.5 days, just I gave up on them. And don't get me wrong, the hardware that Nokia makes is excellent. I would say they make one of the best phones hardware wise. But the problem, I think, is within the Windows Phone OS. And I noticed some of the issues with Windows Phone S, and I'm going to talk about them. The first thing is, again, these issues might be for a power user. If you are a casual user, you might not face these issues. And the first thing that I noticed is many of these Windows Phone, for example, these budget-oriented phones just come with 8 GB of internal storage. And out of that, generally you get about 4.5, 4.6 GB or so. That's similar for Android phones that are in the budget range. But the thing I noticed is that regarding the app sizes, again, for Windows phones, you cannot install the apps on the SD card, even though we have a SD card option in many of the Windows Phone. So the apps will reside on the internal storage. And one thing I did notice is that, for example, generally apps on the Windows Phone are a lot larger. For example, let me give you an example. Game, that's Subway Surfer. I think so on the Android platform, that's just around 42 MB or so. But on the Windows Phone, when I installed it, it was almost 83 MB. And this is similar. This case was similar to many of the other apps and games. The size was actually a lot larger on the Windows Phone. So I was able to install a lot less apps and games, though the internal storage was same. So this is one issue. Generally, I noticed the apps are a lot larger. So the storage can be a limiting factor. Again, I made a gaming review with this Lumia 525. Just check that out. Although I had about 2.2 GB of space, but I couldn't install a game that was even 1 GB. So Microsoft has to look at the internal storage and the size of these apps on the Windows Phone. Next is File Manager. Again, I know, this is a power user issue. If you're a casual user, you won't worry about file managers. We don't have a native file manager, and yes, they are third-party file managers on the Windows Phone, but I found the functionality for them to be very limiting. For example, if we even have a micro SD card with a file manager, we just have a read-only permission. We can't write anything to it. So the functionality is a little bit crippled. Again, I do know that the Windows Phone 8.1 update is going to come out soon, and Microsoft said that some of these issues will be solved. But again, I'm talking about the state of Windows Phone 8 as of January 2014. The next thing I have, and I talked about this last year also, none of the Windows Phone have a physical LED light. For example, if you get a missed call or SMS, etc., you just get a notification and it just goes off. There is no physical LED light. And you might say that that's not important, but I feel it's actually pretty important if you're a very busy user. For example, many of the BlackBerry phones have that, many of the Android phones have that, and I would suggest that Microsoft does provide an option of having a physical LED light. Yes, with the latest Windows update, we have that glance feature. And for example, the Lumia 1520 had that, and I enabled that. But the issue is that when I enabled that feature, and many of these Windows phones have a LCD screen, not an AMOLED screen, the battery life was draining very quickly with that peak feature. So having this physical LED light, I would say, is particularly important for a user who is a heavy and a very busy user. Next is the actual Windows tile interface. This is a tile interface, and yes, it's actually pretty easy to use if you're not a power user. But again, things start to get boring pretty quickly. And for notifications, I noticed that I have to scroll down up and down to see if I have any notification. For example, SMS, missed call, or let's say WhatsApp or a Twitter. Again, I am a fairly power user. So again, scrolling for these notifications up and down is kind of tedious. There is no way of having all the notification in a central place like in Android, and even the iOS now have a central notification. So I hope that Windows Phone has a central notification, because that does save a lot of time in my opinion. Next, now I'm coming to Google Apps, and this is not fault of Microsoft, and I would blame Google for this. But if you are a heavy Google user, for example, let's say if you use Gmail, YouTube, G+, etc., and Google services, Google Maps, etc., none of those have native apps on the Windows phone. Again, Google is not making apps for this. Again, I blame Google for this, but you need to be aware if you are a power user and you use these Google services, then the functionality that you will get is kind of crippled. Even setting up Gmail is a roundabout process. Yes, you can make it work, but you have to create an Outlook account, you have to set up your Gmail account in that and import via that. So again, it's a roundabout way. Again, I blame Google for doing again, Google has to work on this. I don't know why they are acting like this. They are acting like Microsoft, what they did in 1990s, acting like a bully. So again, I hope that situation changes. Next thing is, if you have used Android phones or even iOS, you can instantly just switch off the Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, etc. You have instant toggles, but that kind of functionality is not there. Yes, I know you can create a shortcut, but the problem is that shortcut, you just it's a shortcut and it takes about 2 or 3 steps to toggle on the Wi-Fi on or off and doing simple stuff like that. But on other platforms like Android and iOS, it can be done with 1 or 2 clicks. So I hope that we do get the functionality of having instant toggles on the home page, etc. Next point that I come to is lack of customization on the Windows phone. Yes, you can customize the icons, you can make it large, etc. But let's forget about that and let's talk about third-party apps. Like, for example, I actually, even on an Android phone, I do not use the stock keyboard, but I use a third-party keyboard like SwiftKey. But Microsoft is not allowing third-party apps like third-party keyboards, etc. on the Windows phone. I don't know why, but again, you might like the stock keyboard, but I feel that some of the third-party keyboards are much better than the stock keyboard. And as of now, Windows phone does not allow that. Next is the OTG support. Again, I know this is a power user issue on Windows phone. For example, I haven't tested all the Windows phones out there, but in all the phones that I've tested, none of them do support OTG support. So again, I would hope that Microsoft in the future does provide OTG support, because it's actually pretty easy to expand and carry your audio media using OTG. And the last issue that I did notice is that selection of third-party browsers is also kind of limited on Windows Phone platform. You do have IE and some third-party browsers like UC browsers, etc. But the big hitters, obviously, we won't have Chrome because it's a Google thing. But other players like Firefox, Opera, etc. are also kind of missing on the Windows Phone platform. So I feel these are some of the shortcomings of the Windows Phone OS. Nokia is doing a great job actually with the hardware and also in the software. For example, if you buy Nokia based Windows Phone, they have some extra apps like the maps, and even the camera app that the Nokia has is great. But again, I feel the limiting factor here is the Windows Phone OS, and I hope Microsoft fixes some of the issues that I have mentioned. If you agree with me, hit the like button. If you don't agree with me, hit the dislike button. Again, thank you. This is Ranjit, and I hope to see you in my next video.